Hello dear chess friends, I'm International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy and you're welcome to this series of lessons dedicated to King and Pawn Endgames. In this lesson, we are discussing very important topic of the triangulation. In a given position, we can see that white has an extra material, white has an extra pawn, but it is extremely hard to make a progress without the active king. And to activate the king is also a problem because black's king occupies also very good position, just preventing white's king from activation. Moreover, having this active position on e4, black's king supports pawn d5 in the movement to d4, which is a very nasty threat. For example, if king goes to d2, very natural move, just waiting for black's king to f5, after which king can occupy d3 square, after which, well, the activation of the king becomes a reality and white wins without big problems. But, well, the problem is that black simply plays d4 here, breaking white's pawn pair, e3 and f4, attacking e3 already, so that forcing white to take on d4, and now king takes on d4, gaining the opposition first of all, so preventing white's king from occupying, let's say, e3 or c3 squares, key squares, and actually creating a threat of king e4, after which pawn f4 simply drops. So let's say if f5, then king e5, king d3, so white tries to exploit another interesting idea, so to deflect opponent's king to sacrifice this pawn, but instead to get to a5 and to try to promote a4 pawn. So in this case, king takes f5, king c4, king e5, king b5, and king gets to the corner of the board just to blockade the pawn. So very important theoretic position to memorize. Here white can't win, so it doesn't matter which turn to move, so the king just stays in the corner and blockades the pawn, after which it is the stalemate. So if king goes to f2 in the initial position, black does the same trick. So first plays d4, breaking the pawns, and after e takes d4, takes f4, gaining the opposition, kicking the king away from important squares, from key squares, and then simply grabbing the pawn, and it is a dead draw. So what to do in the initial position with white's king if king d2 doesn't work and king f2 also leads to nowhere? So white has to do what? To try to fight with black's active d4 idea, and also to try to create the same position but with a different turn to move, right? So let's imagine if black's turn to move here, then white benefits from it. Let's say if king goes away from e4, then white can occupy either f3 or d3 and to improve the position of the king dramatically. So white has a move that helps white to solve both problems. It is king to e1. Very nice move. So first of all, the question, why not to take on e3 after that? So after king takes e3, white simply plays f5, and we can see that king can't really stop the pawn f5, while white's king will blockade black's pawn d5. For example, d4, f6, d3, f7, d2, king d1. So black can't promote own pawn, and white's pawn promotes next move. White easily wins. So what happens after black's main idea? After king e1, for instance, d4. So what is the difference if compared to lines king f2 and king d2? White takes on d4, and we can notice that the placement of white's king is much more flexible, because here position of the king is not defined, which means the king can still occupy both d2 and f2, and which square the king will occupy depends on which pawn will be captured. So if king takes on f4, then white plays king to d2. Now it is a big difference, right? Because king is in time just to protect the pawn d4. And the next plan is very simple. So white just improves the position gradually, and at the proper moment leaves pawn d5 but takes a5 pawn and ensures the promotion of the passed pawn, right? So here we can see that king is not in time to get to the corner, or at least to b8 square to stop white's pawn, so white easily wins. If king takes on d4, so white does the same trick, so king goes to f2 here. And if king e4, then king g3, king f5, king f3, and the same. So here we can see white has an f pawn, so white can leave this pawn earlier because it is far away from the corner of the board, right? So here king c5, king f4, king b5, so black tries to get to the corner of the board, but white is just in time to blockade this way, and black's king is just hopeless here because white's pawn goes directly to a8 without limits. So the same idea after d4. So it looks like after king e1, d4 is prevented, right? King e3 makes no sense, so it looks like black's only move is king to f5. And now very important moment. So first of all, white's king goes to d2, creating the direct threat of occupying d3 square. So black's king is just forced to come back to control this square, otherwise king is being activated easily. So king goes to e4, now king goes to e2, and white achieved what he wanted. So the same position, just like the initial one, but black to move. And this means black has to lose the control over important squares, over key squares, which allows white's activation of the king, after which white's win becomes really a question of a couple of moves. So this maneuver, king e1, then king d2, and then king to e2, as we can see, white used 3 squares in this maneuver, is called the triangulation. As we can see, triangulation is the very important technique of gaining the opposition. So if you want to achieve the same position but with a different turn to move, try to use the triangulation. So in this situation, it was possible, and with the help of this triangulation, white managed to lose 1 tempo, but then to achieve the same initial position with a different turn to move, which appeared just decisive. So let's have a look how it works. So d4 still makes no sense because after ed4, king is still flexible, so king has control over d3 and f3. So if king takes d4, then king goes to f3 with the same. If king takes on f4, then king goes to d3. So the same method of winning the game, actually at the proper moment, leaving the extra pawn by getting to a5, taking it, and promoting a4 pawn. So to king e2, the king has to go away. King goes to f5, and now king d3. So white's win becomes really easy here because king becomes very active, and extra pawn being at the same time a passed pawn just goes further and further, grabbing the space, and either white wins the d5 pawn if black's king wants to protect squares like f6, f7, or f8, or simply promotes the pawn f5 like in this line. So king goes to e5, let's say king to c5, f6, and no limits. White pawn promotes and white easily wins. So the triangulation, using 3 squares to lose a tempo, but to achieve the position with a different turn to move, which was so important in this particular case. So in the very beginning, we had this position, right? It was already in the opposition and white to move, which means black benefits from it. But after the triangulation, we have the same position, again the opposition, but black's turn to move, so white benefits from it and grabs the control over key squares and wins. Thanks for your attention. See you next lessons.